Welcome to Dave's Life and Observation with your host, David Welch. Today's show is kind of a observation type show where things have gone so far into the twilight zone that it's just kind of unreal to examine with the brain. So let's recap a little bit of what's happened in the last 12 days or so. So in the last 12 days, we've had Ruth Bader Ginsburg die. My grandma Betty just passed away yesterday, which is not cool. She was a cool old lady, about 90, 89, 90, up there. But she was cool as a breeze. Kept getting hacked on Facebook though, but very, very cool lady. Didn't get to know her as much as I think I would like to, and she didn't get to really be nanny the way I'd like her to have been a nana, but it's just coronavirus really put a kibosh on that, and so did just being young and having a family. Like when you're out and about and you're doing family shit, got to go see other grandparents and relatives, but I haven't seen my grandma Betty for about probably right out of high school. I was in the Navy. Last time I saw Grandma Betty, I was in the Navy, so like talking circa '05. But we talked off and on the phone. So she was a cool lady. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg died as well, so she means a lot to the way the direction as far as Supreme Court goes in the next couple of years, because she was kind of that deciding vote that kept things pretty even. But now, if Trump puts in a conservative-backed, bought, person in there, they're going to include a lot of theocratic bullshit and shove it down our throats and call it the Supreme Court rule. The unfortunate thing about the Supreme Court rulings is that they're still part of our government, and we are allowed to dismantle our government, abolish it, and put it back together in a way we see fit. It used to be a republic. It's now an oligarchy. So we need to, and we the people, need to dismantle our government and put it back together again. And I'm not just talking like major government apparatuses, I'm talking small government apparatuses. Because even small local governments with tyrant sheriffs in there, and you've got tyrant city councils and governors and mayors that are out there running amok, doing crazy things, instituting crazy non-laws, putting people's health at risk and just pretty much ruining lives and businesses. Like that, all of it goes against our Constitution. Like when you quarantine is meant for the sick, not for the healthy. You don't quarantine the healthy. At that point, that's draconian, that's authoritarian, and that's no longer quarantine. That is a gulag situation. We don't live in Nazi Germany. We don't. We live in the United States of America. So instituting policies and practices, okay. Maybe. The social distancing, I with such a low mortality rate, because the survivability of the coronavirus is huge. Now, I'm not saying that people didn't die from it. That'd be absurd to say. I'm not saying that we didn't help bend the curve by temporarily putting on face shields and other nonsense. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying, though, is when you start imposing things on people and going as far as in Moscow, Idaho, making arrests for public gatherings and making arrests for religious practices with healthy people, you fucked up on a level that's unreal. And the people of Idaho should absolutely fuck off your entire department and the city council at that point, and the mayor and the governor. You think Idahoans are, Idaho itself is a conservative state. Very conservative. Theocratic types are conservative. So when you start infringing upon their religious beliefs, their religious gatherings, and shit like that, being secular is cool, but being secular and a douche, not cool. When you start putting people's, religious gatherings on the same level as a riot, and they're ordered to disperse, and they don't, that's because they don't have to follow your fucking orders. They're healthy. They're fine. They don't have the social distance. I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's fucking idiotic. In fact, there's a woman recently, within the last 12 days, arrested for their argument as they arrested her for trespass, saying that one of the rules was to wear a mask at a football game. Mind you, this is an open air football game at a public institution that her kid plays and goes to school and plays for the team. I'm sorry, but if one person, it was only like one person in her group that wasn't wearing a mask, and then you're going to have a fucking officer come over and effect an arrest for not wearing a mask in an open air area. She's not bothering anybody, social distancing, doing her own thing, like with her family unit. I mean, could you even really trespass for that? Like, is that something you trespass for? Like, for not wearing a mask? I get for, like, going into an institution where you're, like, confined to hallways, doors, and whatnot. But even then, like, if you're social distancing, you should be fine to not wear a mask. Okay? Especially if it's a public building. Now, if it's a place to patronize, right? Difference is if it's a private business, right? A private business is a little bit different. Like, you go into a Walmart, a Target, they have, policies where you need to wear a mask, things like that. They may or may not say something to you. They may or may not trespass you, but it's absolutely their right to do so as a business. Now, as a public apparatus, it's a little bit different. That's when you start infringing upon people's rights because they have time, place, and manner, right? So she had time, place, and manner. She had a right to be there. Her son is playing. She pays taxes to support that school. Wasn't even asked if she had a medical exemption, and they went hands-on before doing anything. So at that point, I just don't think they met the criteria for trespass, even if they have a policy for it. Even if you have a policy, it's open air. They social distance. She's not affecting anybody. At that point, the cop wanted a power trip. Now, there's two sides of the conservative coin here, which I always find hilarious, but it's back the blue and follow the law, right? So I think it's hilarious when people are conflicted, right? So you have two sides. You have status. So there's people who shadow themselves as conservatives or as Republicans. They're called statists, right? There are people that are absolute statists, where they're like, if the government tells you to jump off a cliff, these motherfuckers will line up and leap, right? Then there's the critical thinking conservatives that are like, nah, bitch, that's not smart. Like, what? I'm not doing it. I'm gonna think for myself. I'm going to go ahead and not follow that fucking rule because it's stupid. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't follow science. Right? But you have these fucking absolute statists that are like, back the blue. Follow the law. But then it's like you got Breonna Taylor's boyfriend who did everything right by technically castle doctrine. You don't know who's entering your place. They appear to be in plain clothes. You didn't hear them identify themselves as an officer. You fire a round, but once you realize that they're officers, you cease firing, and then you get fired upon so badly that your girlfriend dies, right? And it's okay that they had a warrant for her place. Now, they didn't have a. People are always like, well, they had a warrant for Breonna Taylor. Like, no, they did not. No. If you read the warrant, which most 90% of you motherfuckers didn't, the warrant was for her place. There's a premises warrant, and then there's a warrant for her arrest, which never happened. Never happened. No. No arrest. No outstanding warrants for the boyfriend either. You don't hear nothing about that in the news because it doesn't exist, you fucknuts. Idiot motherfuckers, right? Now, Breonna Taylor. Let's talk about the last 12 days. You have officers that, and I see two sides of the argument here. I actually do see both sides of the argument. You have officers that are not being prosecuted for the murder, and it's a murder, of Breonna Taylor. Okay? I get that you're in the execution of your duties. That's apparent. That's understandable. We get that, right? We understand. However, negligence on your part should at least be manslaughter, because you did your job so bad that it resulted in someone's death. Okay? Now, if you're affecting a raid, and I don't know what time of the day they affected the raid. That's something I got to really understand. But if it's during the daylight hours, even if it's in the morning time, right? You've got to remember that people that if it's in the evening or early morning, you're probably waking motherfuckers up. People are probably in bed. And people's senses aren't all arriving at top of the tilt, right? They're not all like focused on what's going on. They are going to react to being barged in on. They're going to return fire. They're going to defend themselves, because there's a lot of shit that goes on in this country, like, I don't know, armed robberies, break-ins, home invasions. All that shit happens in all these cities, right? So that's a real fucking thing. So for Breonna Taylor's murderers to essentially walk free and not receive indictments for at least manslaughter is a slap in the face to the community, because you gotta realize that when you're affecting in a warrant, or you're using a warrant to search a place, or using a warrant to do a number of things, you've got to realize that it takes a little bit of logical thinking. What would have been the harm? Let me ask you. What would have been the harm to wait for Breonna Taylor and her dude to come out of the premise? What time is wasted here, right? I mean, is it really a now thing, right? Are the circumstances or the drugs going to disappear within the amount of time that is going to elapse between the time that person decides to go down to the 7-Eleven, or that person decides to go somewhere to effect an arrest right there, cautiously going to the house at that point, using the occupant as a mechanism to get in there, and then effect your search warrant, which you still have and you absolutely can execute. And then as a judge, so let me ask you, judges, like, you motherfuckers don't just sign shit, do you? Like, let's be real. Let's be real. You probably just look at it for a second. Well, I believe what the officer's got to say. And then just sign that shit. Like, bruh, why don't you read the warrant and ask fucking questions? Like, you sure you got the right address? Yeah. Have you done surveillance on this address in the last couple of days? Yeah. What circumstances lead you to believe that this person is holding a drug? I mean, just a dialogue, motherfuckers, before you... And that dialogue is a matter of public record. Like, that thought process should be a matter of public record. What did you deduce? What information did you take away from to deduce to sign off on a warrant for a search? And I get, like, something in real time. So, with people think officers aren't slick, they can get you could be sitting there and they can get a warrant like this. Happens real quick. They can get a warrant, and as long as it's electronic, they don't. And that's the thing, people get fucked up too, is like, they think that they have to be shown the warrant immediately. They don't, as long as they eventually see the warrant for what it is. Now, oftentimes, law enforcement does it the right way. They'll have the warrant in hand, and they'll still not show the occupant, which is all wrong all day. But sometimes they're waiting on a warrant to come through that they know they're gonna get. Or, but there's circumstances in real time that allows you to get a warrant in real time. Like, yo, I saw this. Something looks fishy. There's an odor coming from the trunk. I need a warrant for the trunk. You get the warrant for the trunk, and you get in the trunk, and there's bodies in there. Okay, case closed. You fucking win. But at the same time, like in Breonna Taylor's case, like, yo, where was the rush? Why couldn't we wait till these motherfuckers went down to the gas station, go buy some condoms or something, and fucking hit them up? Can't wait? Can't catch motherfuckers slipping? Like, all this time, money, and resources that we spend on fucking law enforcement, you can't do that? And I'm so sick and tired of that excuse. Not enough training, not enough training. Like, these motherfuckers know what they're doing. They purposely went in there without body cameras. That's a red flag. You're a fucking judge, or you're a fucking prosecutor, and you fucking learn that every single officer went in there without body camera? Really? You're gonna affect a warrant and a raid and not wear a body camera for documentation purposes? So that in a very fucking scenario just like this, that you're not gonna be held liable in court? That's why they didn't bring the body camera, because they didn't want to be held liable in court. And that's where you get. That's why all these cities are fucking burning. That's why people are pissed off. That's why people are, screaming for the top of their lungs for Black Lives Matter and all sorts of organizations that aren't necessarily on the level, but they're screaming their name because they don't know what other organizations are out there to have backup or to have an outlet to. They sure as shit aren't going to run to the police union, because the police are the enemy. Police officers out there, police unions, departments, deputies, sheriffs, whatever the fuck apparatus of law enforcement you are, do you fuckers know you create all of your problems? All of them. Because there's no third party investigations into your shit. If you say they're your brother fucking department, and you're fucking buddy, rubbing elbows together and shit. And that's the problem with the law enforcement community, is they're too buddy. They're too friendly, right? They're too, like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and they're not going by the law, right? And that's wrong all day. Like, you have so many circumstances where law enforcement officers are doing wrong, they fuck up in some sort of way, and people are dying in the streets for the most innocuous shit. Left taillight was out. Right taillight was out. Possible counterfeit money. Selling cigarettes on the side of a road. Or the sidewalk. Allegedly, mind you. Allegedly selling cigarettes. Eric Garner. The most innocuous shit leads to murders by law enforcement, and that's what they are. They're murders, and they are a microcosm of a much larger issue. And I was almost sold on Jocko's point, where, and I'm talking Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL, former Navy SEAL. Great guy, super energetic, super intelligent, stoic guy. Had me sold and convinced that officers need more training. And I would agree on certain aspects of that. I do agree that they need more time to develop their skills in scenarios. Great. Makes sense. Like a deployment ramp up. Like you have, officers ramping up for deployment. And you think it's like the day-to-day officer would get the right amount of breaks and stuff, and psychological batteries quite a bit, and then things like that. But they're not. That's the problem. So I agree that there are certain things that Jocko is absolutely fucking spot on about. Situational training, affording officers the ability, more time off to return back to why they do what they do as far as police officers. And we have it within the budgets. We have the abilities. We have the the mechanisms, because all too often we have officers that are seeing shit day in and day out and they're not getting a respite, not getting a break. They're just mindlessly, hours by hours, days are melding into days, and they're taking on overtime and they're really getting psychologically affected. So they bring work home, they're battering their wife and kids. So there's a lot more to the field of law enforcement that we need to give credit to, but to blatantly say that they just have no training, or allowing them the excuse that they don't know, is bullshit when it's not okay for the rest of us. So to say, "Oh, I didn't know the law," is not an excuse for an officer either. Not anymore. Not in this fucking century, because it's not an excuse for them not to understand the law. It's written down somewhere. They need to know it. And they enforce it. There should be a double fucking penalty for those who enforce laws they don't fucking know, and they effect an arrest out of it, or they violate rights out of it. The penalty should be fucking steep. But then you have these fraternal order of police motherfuckers who will go out and fucking, why the police? Why do people hate the police? And why are we being targeted? And we don't understand. People just need to grow up. People just need to understand that we're working hard out here every day. Now, fuck you bitches. That whole excuse of, you guys have a hard job, that you're fucking heroes, like, you don't prove it. It's when it comes to put up or shut up, you got firemen out there every day that are doing the job. They're saving lives. They're first responders. They're not fucking people up. They're not the reason why first responders are called out there to effect medical aid. Cops all the time will go into a scenario where there's nobody hurt, nobody's affected, nobody's in a situation where they're dying, and then next thing you know, EMS is being called out because an officer shot somebody, an officer beat somebody so bad they need EMS, or they've killed someone by effecting an arrest where they've all, like, 5-6 officers that are there are fucking putting the entire full pressure of their body weight on that human being, suffocating the shit out of them. And then you guys don't even cover, like, this doesn't even cover the amount of deaths that happen in jails, that happen in prisons because of negligence, right? The sheriff's deputies that are in charge of jails, the jailers. Now, this isn't all jailers, right? Not even close to all correctional officers. There are correctional officers out there that are doing their job. They do everything by the book as best they can. There are officers that are out there doing that as well. They're doing everything by the book. They're doing everything within their power to affect real change. I get you guys. I really do, because I have friends that are in the law enforcement community that are, that are the best dudes, you ever meet. And I can see them and I've seen them under pressure, whether it was in the military, whether it was in a live scenario where they had to affect police powers, but they're cool, they're calm, they're collected, and they enforce the law. They know the law, and they know how to enforce it, and they know how to de-escalate by having a conversation. They know how to, assert themselves when they absolutely have to, and then back off when it doesn't make sense, right? I've seen it. But it's hard for me as a critical thinking human being to not find a solution or a series of solutions for a problem that is systemic. It is a systemic problem. And for people who have a mental block with that fucking term, that means that entire system, the apparatus of the Justice Department, even some of the executive branch with the orders and all of that. So you got the executives. Like, the executives are the ones who, are, you got the president, the governor, you got your city council. Those are okay, right? Or not the city council, but those are the executive, right? You got your mayor, city, those are executive branch. Then you got judicial, where you've got your fiefdoms, you've got your different level judges, you've got your... And And the problem is with judges. Judges are not penalizing law enforcement enough for negligence. So, like, if something, for example, ends up on paper, the written the police report differs greatly from like a video or something like that. Why, oh why are the police not being hit with, misconduct, becoming an officer, perjury, um, you know, and then the higher charges. All of those lower charges should absolutely fucking stick, no matter what. Whether they're catching the felony murder or the felony manslaughter or the misdemeanor assault, with a deadly weapon, or misdemeanor, whatever it is that they're catching, or there's the different tiers of assault as well. Whatever it is that they're catching, as far as charges, should be dealt with immediate jail time as well. So you have all situations all the time where officers are just fired. Well, being just fired doesn't mean shit in the law enforcement community because they still have their post certification. They can still go down the road as a gypsy cop and get a job as a sheriff's deputy or just a cop in a different area. And because of the lack of research resources, they're going to be like, hey, welcome to the party, and then they're cracking skulls and they're going back to kicking in doors and doing shit that they were doing, just in a different department right down the road. So we got to fix shit. In the last 12 days, life has really taken a toll on some of us that have been in quarantine. And not everybody's quarantining so hard right now. A lot of people are out and about. People are still following the rules somewhat, with social distancing, things like that. But we've gotten to the point where, like, even the CDC is like, yeah, nah, man, we can't really go on those numbers. So here are the real numbers. And, by the way, we still have a recommendation that you should, have all business closed, things like that. Like, for people to still fall for that shit is absolute lunacy. Why? Why? That doesn't make sense. Gyms should be open. People should be able to just go eat. Fuck the mask. I mean, they're trying to make masks the new normal. And I'm sorry, but that's not normal. That's not That's not who we are as Americans. Who we are as Americans are people that are free. If you're healthy, if you're in good shape, even if you're in bad fucking shape but you're healthy, and you don't have pre-existing conditions, and pretty much everybody has pre-existing conditions at some point. At some point you're going to get some sort of, because your body's a machine, and something somewhere is going to give. For me, eyesight's starting to give, knees, being a wrestler, being big as I am, being fat, fuck, don't get fat. That grinds the gears faster than anything. And it comes down from unhealthy habits, unhealthy work-life balance, exuberant amount of stress. There's all sorts of reasons to lose and gain weight and have just an unhealthy mental thing going on. You know what I mean? Much less dealing with the effects of a society that's kind of on two different spectrums. But going back to the main point of this video is, like, in the last 12 days, we've lost key people. We've suffered great injustices as a people, and I don't see it stopping. I do see it slowing down for the holidays. Now, these holidays are going to be really interesting to see what happens. We're going to see nonsense like you've never seen, because the holidays are where people purposely get together for a lot of things. During the summer, I can see people social distancing a little bit better, camping on their own, smaller family units going camping and, not being together or whatnot. Okay. Now, you try to tell people during Halloween, Dia de los Muertos, Thanksgiving, and Christmas not to be together, not to be close to each other, not to embrace each other. Good luck with that. Oh, and for the officers, like I said, that are effecting arrest for mask violations, you should absolutely be shot. Yep. Like I said, I have family that are in law enforcement, friends that are in law enforcement, but they also know my stance. They know my stance on things. You violate someone's rights purposefully without consideration that that person can fuck you off real quick, then you deserve to get shot. I'm not gonna cry when you got two officers pulling somebody over for a tail light. You're ordering them out of the vehicle. You're trying to make it more fucking hassle than it needs to be. You're tasering people for a tail light because they're not following your exact orders to a T. You know, if they provided you the documents, write them the ticket and let them go. Don't tase them. Don't fucking wrestle with them. Don't fight them, and then have people mourn your death when you get shot. Because I don't mourn your death. You deserve to get shot. Stop fucking with people. Stop ruining lives. You stop ruining lives, you won't get shot anymore. Stop murdering people in the streets, you won't get jumped anymore. You want the fraternal order of police to shut the fuck up? Real quickly, start fucking regulating your people, and you won't hear a peep from people. You'll actually get the support you need. Now there are statists out there that are going to back the blue no matter what, but they're falling into a trap because once they realize that even Breonna Taylor's boyfriend didn't violate the law, that's when they're going to be like, huh? That's when their racist brain can't fucking compute with what's going on. Like, well, he shouldn't have fired. Well, wait a minute. Let's look at the totality of circumstances. He thought it was a home invasion situation. I can understand. You're in the back of an apartment, you don't quite hear something. You don't hear the police announce themselves. And just because you have the neighbors who you intimidate into saying, oh, well, you heard us, right? That doesn't mean the people in the residence heard you. It doesn't mean that at all, right? Like, I have hearing problems from the military. My wife could be fucking 10 feet away from me saying, David, if I'm focused on something or if I'm looking a different direction and I'm not paying attention to her, I'm not going to hear it. I'm sorry, but you know, you're not even going to consider like what their hearing was, what the totality of circumstances were, and then you're going to fucking back the blue when they fucking clearly make a huge multi-level mistake. Doesn't work out. So I was like find it funny that those people are like super liberal, because that's like a super liberal thing to do. Like, liberals are statists. They want big government apparatus up their ass. They love it. They love the Gestapo police in the streets, you know, because it's so funny. They go flying around in these little anti-fascist get-ups, but they're like super Nazis in disguise. Like, we've seen this before in history. Anti-fascist. Well, the Nazis were anti-fascist until they came into power. And then, you know what's funny about this upcoming election? Not to go off too much of a topic, because it is within the last 12 days. You have Biden, who's our guy, I guess, for the Democrats. Like, yo, this dude's been in government for a long time. He's one of the major reasons we have the war on drugs, and one of the major reasons why we have the level of prison population that we do, because he wants to be tough on drugs. This asshole wants to be our president. He hasn't done shit for the United States as long as he's been in government. Yet we want this motherfucker to be our president? Nah. Do we want Trump to be our president? No, probably not. I mean, you know, we had our fun and games for 4 years. He played president okay. You know, I can't say he did a bad job. I can't say he did a good job either. I mean, I'm just kind of indifferent about his whole presidency. I really don't have any special highlights, anything that I can recall that he instituted that was like major, except for backing out of a bunch of deals. Okay. Did he do now? Is he pro law enforcement? For sure he is. Is he pro military? Yeah, absolutely, damn Skippy. However, like if you've ever heard his interviews or you talk to him one on one, he does understand that there's social injustice. He does understand that there's, reasons why people are doing what they're doing. But, he's a party player as well because he's getting, backed by a small conglomerate within the party who are pushing or who are getting their agendas pushed forward through him. But as a Republican, you're like, I don't know if that's my guy. So I'm looking, and then what's really stupid is they're not even letting the Green Party or the Libertarian Party candidates speak at the debate. I think that's inherently wrong. I think every presidential candidate, whether it's Joe Schlew off the fucking street, The Rock, Trump, whoever it is, go to the debate and actually have a debate, because then let the dice roll where they may. Let America decide, and at the voting polls. Now, for a separate video that I'm going to make, I'm going to go into the fucking bullshit called the American voting system. That's for a different video. But let's recap this video. This video is all about the last 12 days. The last 12 days, we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg. My nan died. That sucks. Grandma Betty, loved you. Sweet old lady. We lost, a lot of people are not liking the Breonna Taylor case, the way that's fallen out. Officers should have been indicted there. We have goons still arresting people for not wearing a mask. That's inherently wrong. So that's kind of everything for David's life and observation right now. But we can do better. We need to go into the fall, into the winter, okay with lessening the social distancing. Otherwise, we're going to have huge problems when it comes winter and just the problems that come with that. Lack of telephone services, so Zoom calls and things will be starting to go out, and storms ravaging things, and people not being able to go to social gatherings and stuff. Could you imagine being arrested at a fucking Christmas party because your family's like 50 plus motherfuckers? Really? You gonna arrest people for sliding down a hill together, not wearing a mask? Come on. You're already arresting a lady at the fucking football game, which you're probably gonna get sued for, dumbass. So we'll see. We'll see where we go as a society. Are we gonna be statists, which a lot of people who are statists claim to be Republican, but they're really fucking liberals in disguise? I don't buy that shit. But anyways, I digress. Have a good evening. And one thing that was in the last 12 days was my birthday. Yeah, 22nd. Turned 35. Don't know how I feel about that, but it is what it is. Oh, and fucking last night were some fireworks in the UFC. Good job, Israel Adesanya, the last style bender. Holy shit, dude. Yeah, a lot of good fights on there, and I'll let that be that.